Historic center of Copper, town of Copper Center. There's a roadhouse here, museum, a garage. I don't know what they could repair, but they're fixing a car inside. They're changing the oil anyway. This sign here tells about how some miners in 1896 survived the winter and some didn't. Somebody added in their own handwriting here, some graffiti if you wish, and I'll quote. They're talking about the miners who spent the winter here. Many suffered with scurvy and died. Added in is, also the natives from the area helped many of the miners to survive, because the natives knew if the miners survived, they would pay their taxes and the natives could get a government check. There's still some incipient anger, jealousy, or whatever that many of the native people are on, in effect, what we would call welfare. They get money from the government, i.e. the taxpayers, even to this day. I don't know the details, of course, but it's the anger is still there. Two pair of moose horns locked together. When the two moose fought, two males fought, they accidentally got their horns locked together and couldn't separate them. Eventually they would die of exhaustion continuing the fight, starvation, or thirst. I've heard of that happening, but it's very rarely seen. Going too fast on those bad roads? Probably so. Looks like a hanging bumper there. We're in the town of Chicken, Alaska. Yep, like squawk, squawk. Why'd the chicken cross the road? This guy's been following me for about 10 miles now. And this is an abandoned gold dredge. Now think of a giant mechanized gold panner, where they take in the dirt with the gold in it at one end, the other end, the far end from here, run it through a series of shakers and etc., and kick the bad stuff, the non-gold stuff, out the rear end. And they just move it up the creek or the river, as whatever they think it, wherever they think the gold is. It's a barge, and it floats. It stays in its own pond of water. Here it's been abandoned. I understand they usually weigh about 1 million pounds. Now this road is called the Top of the World. I'm not exactly sure why it's called that. Maybe we'll find out along the way. The view is pretty nice. It's a rough road in that it was originally built back in the 1950s, and except for the bridges, there hasn't been any real improvements. They've maintained it. It's a passable road, but it's no freeway, that's for sure. Maybe this is the reason. 1.5 lanes, and looks like about 300 feet down. Start questioning yourself if you're on the right road, but the views sure make it worthwhile. Oh great, a tanker truck. Now you gotta ask yourself, what's a tanker truck doing out here? Is he lost? Yikes. And the next morning, just to make sure we don't miss out on the excitement, it's raining. My GPS in the upper left-hand corner is showing what appears to be a symbol of a boat. I'm not sure if that's good or not. Within the last 10 minutes, why I have the boat symbol. In the last 10 minutes I drove through what I would consider two very large streams or an extremely small river. one of them, which is a guy was standing there and telling me that it had washed the road out repeatedly this year. I might be the last one to make it through, but that was just his opinion. Well, we finally climbed high enough that now we're in the clouds, so we got fog also. We're at Dawson City. Don't confuse that with Dawson Creek, where the Alaska Highway starts. Here we'll have to take a ferry to get across to the city itself. Now that's the ferry across the way. He's loading up with cars now. There's no dock or other ramp system here other than this gravel area right here. I think this is where they're going to board us. They're pretty primitive in my opinion, even for way out here, but nonetheless I guess it works. Well, we made it on board. It's a pretty fast flowing river, and he's holding us to the shoreline with the power of the boat. In other words, he did not moor the ferry to the shore with anything, no ropes or cables. He's simply holding us here by using the engine. This really explains why I had that boat symbol on my GPS. My destination or my next change in route would be onto the ferry. And in fact, it told me that that's what it was going to do about a kilometer away. Now he's got to angle into it because of the force of the current. He can't just drive straight over to it. He's got to have one end of the boat, one end of the ferry going upstream and pushing against it with his prop. The GPS just told me to exit ferry. This thing knows exactly where I am. We'll have to side slip in. He's pushing up upstream now. Well, apparently it's not open today, so we'll have to be satisfied with a picture of the outside. This is the main street of Dawson, Front Street. Some of it's just touristic, but some of it's pretty old. Some of it's pretty worn out. Apparently the ship won't be open until tomorrow, so we'll start down here at the First Nation Cultural Center. The First Nation peoples here were Danjaa, I guess. The exhibits are pretty traditional, if you wish, standard heritage type things. Everything's new, not like a museum. But they had a chief at the time of the gold rush who had the foresight to get the songs of the tribe, the heritage, the spoken stories of the tribe out of the area into the hands of a tribe over in Alaska who kept these songs for them. All of it oral, all of the oral history, traditions and methods that they used was all stored with them. And they brought them back here just barely 20 years ago and formally presented them back to the tribe, who now felt that they were capable, had the stability to take care of their own heritage again. It's quite an amazing story. Here's another one of those little engines that could.